All right, welcome back to another episode of Product Misfires. Today, we're stepping into a different type of discussion. The Major Baseball League, MLB, with none other than Eric Gagné, Cy Young winner, World Series champ, and baseball legend. Eric, thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Full disclosure, I'm not a baseball expert at all. First time we met, we hit it off, but we didn't geek out at all about baseball. But today I did my homework. Especially regarding tech in baseball. And that's what we want to talk today about. So do you want to quickly do an intro about yourself, who you are, maybe a bit of your background?
From Montreal. Played 10 years in the big leagues. I actually, 3 All-Star, 1 Cy Young. And I am a huge baseball fan still. But now I'm doing it a little bit differently. I own a baseball bat company. I do a podcast in French, trying to do one in English. I've owned an independent baseball team, and I've coached for Team France. I've coached in the minor league, so I've touched it all. Yeah, I've touched everything in the baseball world.
Awesome.
So that's kind of my
So you know a bit more than me.
A little bit.
So when I did my research, Eric, I fell on one piece of news that really caught my eye, which was the 2017 Astros scandal, where they were accused of stealing signs, right?
Yep.
Stealing signs through technology. They supposedly had a camera that was able to track the signs and decipher the signs and give the information to the hitter or pitcher or whatever. Maybe you want to give us your perspective quickly on that and what actually changed at that moment. Was it like a realization that, hey, the sport is about to change because tech is getting really, really smart and the gamesmanship of, being able to read a player and read a sign as a first baseman or whatever, or just a batter. I feel like, was that like a pivoting moment for the sport? Was that something that you were like, aha, or?
Well, not aha for us, not the players. We've always known the technology has always been pretty far ahead. Now you have the overlay. You can look at every pitcher. You can overlay every single pitches. It was just a matter of time. I mean, it's human nature to try to get an advantage. The only problem I saw with this is the way they relay it. We've always been able to steal signs and steal like habits. So every pitcher tips a little bit. So whether you're taking a deep breath or the glove breaks differently on a changeup, on a curveball or whatever, there's always been something.
Every throw you talk to your catcher in some ways with
the hitter. So what's going to happen is, as a reliever, I would watch the game for 4, 5, 6 innings. So what I would do is I would sit there with 2 or 3 guys and just look at the game and analyze, okay, I'm looking at his glove, or I'm looking at his breathing, or I'm looking at his tempo. So you would analyze where the release point is and try to do it that way. Now you have technology that does it for you.
Yeah.
So that's a lot easier to kind of, I don't want to say cheat, but it's a big advantage. If you have that technology, which the Houston Astros have always been ahead of the curve. I mean, they got NASA, they work for NASA, NASA worked for them. I mean, the technology is unbelievable. So now you have the etiquette of the game. Like, we always steal signs, and that's not new.
We try to steal
signs. Yeah, we try to steal signs. We try to understand who the tippers are. There's always going to be a little bit of that. But now with the technology, it's make it a lot easier. But the problem is the way they did it, they relayed it. So now it's like now it's a little bit pushing the limit.
What do you mean relayed?
Well, they would tell them, the guy in the clubhouse with the computer, I'm not sure exactly where they were, but the guy in the clubhouse with the computer or with the technology, they would bang on a trash can.
On a trash can, yeah, that was the trash can,
tell them what's coming. So you could hear it, that, hey, whether it's a one bang, it's a fastball or what, I'm not sure exactly what their the way they used to do it. But sometimes, I mean, if you have a catcher, sometimes I give the signs, he would open up his leg. Sometimes you would see the signs he would give with nobody on. And you would have, a guy on first base trying to, the coach at first base, whether he puts his hands on his knees or doesn't, maybe a fastball or an off speed. So you always have to be worried about that. I was raised and, I was literally bred to understand we're a creature of habit. So find those habits, find those little weaknesses where they're not paying attention. And I think now with the technology, though, it's a little, I don't want to say cheating, but it's an advantage. It's an unfair advantage that they're trying to, try to really fix that. And I think it's, it was a pivotal moment to say, hey, because it probably wasn't the only team that did that, but the relaying was so obvious that it's like, we can't do that. Yeah. There's stories out there that guys in center field, like sitting, if they had the glasses on or off, they relay a sign, whether it's a fastball or an off speed. And remember, those guys are elite athletes. I mean, if you know a fastball is coming, it's a lot easier. And I used to tip myself. So I would basically my changeup, I would make my glove a little bit bigger. So guys would say, okay, big glove off speed. So sit soft. So that makes a huge difference. And it's a huge advantage, especially when that's what they do. So, it was, I'm glad MLB brought it down. That now
what did they do? So yeah, because now we're what, 8 years later from that moment. What does it look like?
Nobody wants to get caught cheating.
Okay, so it's like really you do it, but don't get caught.
Yeah, I don't think they do anymore because I think now MLB has really cracked down on it.
Okay,
and the technology's there. I think the way when I go in there after the way I pitch, I'll go in there and look at, okay, am I tipping? In Major League, when I was in the playoffs, I looked at it and I called my buddy Alex Cora and I told him, hey, this guy's tipping. That's what he does, high, low, and that's okay. I think that's really good because these are just habits and you pay attention to patterns and you recognize patterns are a little bit different depending on the situation or the pitch.
So it's gamesmanship at that point.
I'm good with that. The problem is when you start using technology that other teams might not have, that's an unfair advantage.
Unfair,
and now you're literally telling hitters what's coming.
And tell me about, like, when you're on the field, how much information do you have in your head? And is that even like information overload? Yeah. Could that be an issue to a certain degree where you're like, okay, not only do I know the type of pitch that I'm going to receive, but then somebody's talking to me and banging on a trash can. I got to figure it out. I got to think about it. I got to manage everything. Is that even something that, again, pushing 8 years later, there's probably even more information that's being analyzed.
Yeah, I mean, with the technology we have now, you have everything. You have motion capture. You have everything you can think of.
So when you go out on the field, your brain must be spinning.
Well, you lose the feel of the game a little bit. You lose the instinct, the natural instinct that you have, the player's instinct that, that most of us have. If you're thinking every single 2-2 pitch, a guy's throwing a slider or a curveball or something, the percentage of, depending on a certain situation, you can have overload. It's like, a lot of times it's like, just keep it simple, right? Keep it simple, stupid. See ball, hit ball. For pitchers, the same thing. If I'm trying to overthink every single count, thinking of what he's thinking, then you're starting to it's too much overload. We know everything.
Like you said, you lose the feel.
So sometimes for me, I would have a plan in my head, 2 or 3 pitches ahead, like whether I want to go fastball, change up, or whatever the combination was. But then you have to feel like, okay, I saw his reaction. Depending on whether he opened his zip or the way he took a pitch, like it would dictate me if I was on it or he was on it or vice versa. So to me, to paying attention, I have a lot more value to paying attention than I would do for if a coach tells you like every 1-1 pitch you're going to do this and that. That's too predictable. So you have to have some type of feel, and the feel of the game is something that's the big difference on people. Like because everybody, if you keep doing the same thing over and over, especially baseball, it's a very static sport, it's going to be easy to guess. So for me, there is such a thing as too much information because you lose the feel. But now the young kids are so used to have that much information.
But that's what I was going to say. Do you feel like the next superstar, the next, in 5 years or 10 years, the next Cy Young winner will be someone that can really manage all these data points and can really go into the field and have an advantage because they understand it all.
Yes and no, because everybody has the same information. Okay. What you do with it, that's the variable. That's what's beautiful about this game because, everybody knows each single count.
Oh, it's all accessible, right?
Exactly. What the opponent's going to do. So if you can all you're trying to do is create chaos. Someone thought process. You're trying to make sure that he's not comfortable, whether it's pitch up and in or whether it's going 6 sliders in a row because he's thinking you're going to throw this and that. That's the chess game of baseball. And I think it's important that you don't lose that personal understanding of yourself. And that's from getting to know you. It's not really from getting to know other people. So to me, for me, the way I used to take it, because I love information, I just use that as a blueprint. When in doubt, if I'm not sure what to throw a certain situation, then I go back to the knowledge I've acquired.
Fallback.
Exactly. So it's just more like if if you feel like 2 fastballs in a row and then you're like, okay, why do I do that? And then your catcher puts 2 fastballs in a row. You're like, okay, there's confirmation there. And the data obviously dictates what you're going to do. So it just takes the doubt out of it. So you're trying to create chaos into a hitter. Well, the pitcher is the same way. So you use that more as a blueprint to or guide yourself when in doubt.
Gotcha. And that's for every hitter that came to hit against you. You sort of have had that blueprint, those data points?
Yes, but for me, I didn't want to go into those information meetings because it was too much. It was
like
I trust myself more. I feel the ball in my hands. I trust myself more than what other people will do because they're not they don't feel the way I feel on the mound at that moment. So you got to be very confident on not trusting that too much. You don't want to rely on it because everybody has the same stuff. So I think for me, the good guys, the good pitchers, the really, really good guys, they feel they feel like
the moment
they understand
what's happening.
Yeah. They understand, okay, this is what I want to do now. It feels right. I got the information. I made my decision. Now you commit. It's literally 3 steps. I mean, you get all the information in from your own experience, from everybody else's input, and from all the data you acquire. And then you're like, okay, you make a decision and then you commit to it and then you execute.
It's crazy because looking at the NFL, you see those quarterbacks with the earpieces and it's like you have somebody speaking in your ear.
Yep.
You have to talk to your team. You have to make a decision. Holy moly. You don't have that, right? In baseball, you don't have an earpiece.
They do now. They almost do. They don't have an earpiece, but they have like a little thing that tells you the signals, which, it's okay. But just imagine an F1 driver. I mean, you have to make those, you're going 250 miles an hour and then you have to make all the decisions and everything else.
That's insane.
Yeah. I mean, but you get used to it. I mean, it's like us. When you focus, you listen, but you hear, but you don't always pay attention. It just comes into your brain. And
especially if you grow up with it.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
if you learn the sport and growing with it. So one topic I really wanted to talk with you is the ABS, automated ball and strike system. This is brand new in the MLB. It's crazy. Do you want to maybe explain what it is?
Yeah, it's basically a system what tells you the balls and strikes, automatic. And I don't hate it. I don't know if it's ready yet. I don't know if the technology is accurate 100% because for me, it's, I like technology to help us improve, not to guide us, basically. I like to use it. Like, I like the way they're doing it right now because I was against it completely.
Really?
Yeah, I like the human element. I like the relationship you have with umpire.
You like the mistake,
I like the respect that the umpire will like. You have to earn your strikes, right? And as a pitcher, if you show emotions, you show them up, they'll call you a ball once in a while. So it's like, you got to understand that. So for me, that human element is what I'm old school. So for me, that was important. I like that if the catcher drops his shoulder, the umpire sees it and he's like, hey, you show me up in front of millions of people. I'm good. The next time I'm calling the ball. I kind of like that. Now with the gambling, you don't want to,
I didn't know that was a thing.
Oh, it's a huge thing. So that's why I didn't like it at first. But now the way they did it, which is the player on defense and offense, they're the one calling that. I love that. I'm okay with that because then it takes into, and then you have to strategize when you're using it, why you're using it, the timing of it. And that, to me, that's super important. I wish they would do that with all the replays. I really wish they would, all the replays should be only by the players. Not someone on, in the dugout with their iPad and just doing that. I think to speed up the game, just do it with the players on the field. And then you'll see smart players, because everybody has an ego. We're all a huge ego. Like we all think we know the game more than anybody else. We all feel like every call, we understand, we know the call. But the umpires they're really, really good. They're really good. So I think I would like to see the players.
You would see more emotions into those.
You would see guys I don't want to say smart or not smart, but they're too emotional. Like the emotional decisions. Like if you hit a double, you're called out on second base. They're always, if you look at them, they always think they're safe. Every time they think they're safe. But
what are you talking about?
So it's pretty, I would like to see that with all the replays, I think. Just keep everybody off the field. Keep him off the decision making.
And specifically for the automated ball strike system. What's missing right now? In your perspective?
The proof of consistency, I think, right now. I like to see 100% accurate, but I don't know. I haven't really dived too much into what the systems are. I don't know if it's Hawkeye or I'm not sure exactly what they're, is it a Hawkeye?
Yeah.
So depending on like how accurate it is, But since it's only the players, I'm okay with it. If it was ball and strike called automatically, then giving the umpires like, oh, that's a ball, that's a strike, I would hate it. But since it's only like you're basically letting the player decide and you only have a certain amount of balls and strikes, I like it.
It brings a new dimension to the game. And I'm curious about what's your take on this technology regarding like as a fan watching the game, what does it bring? What do you think, as a fan, is it positive? Is it negative?
Baseball, I think it's positive because baseball is boring as it is. I love baseball, but it's like watching chess. So you have to entertain your fans. And I think that's what's missing in baseball. That's the big difference with basketball and hockey. It always moves. There's always movement. There's always something to be looking at. And especially with our youth, like their attention span's a lot shorter. They're very good at multitasking. Yeah. That's what they do. They're on their phone. They're driving. There's always something happening. And baseball is there's nothing until the pitcher throws the ball and then might be action. And that's why all the rule change. I like the technology because it involves the fans and makes them talk about it. I like to see spin rate. I like to see, miles an hour.
It gives a new metric to look at.
It entertains the fans. I mean, to me, it's all fan entertainment.
So it's a net positive for the fans. What about the umpires? Well, how do you think they take this technology?
I hope that they talk to the umpires. I hope they make them make those decisions as well, because you don't want to lose that. I mean, I'm all about improving the game, but I don't want to lose the old fashioned fans of the game, because we have a 10-year differential with every major sports. Their average fan base is 57, I think, in Major League Baseball. Okay. So if you alienate those guys, which are the purists of games, you lose a big portion of your fans. So I would integrate the way they've done it. I didn't like the pitch clock. I didn't like to see it. So they're like that. And it turns out pretty good. Yeah. You don't notice anymore. So, they do their study. I like to critique a lot, but they do what they need to do. I think it's pretty good, but the umpires, I think they need to keep that part of the game. They have to. I understand there's gonna be mistakes, but that's real world. I mean, that's normal. That happens. But I think if you leave it to I guarantee you if you tell the players, hey, we're going to give something to the umpires to improve their decision making and make sure they make the calls mostly right. Like they're pretty accurate. They're 95, 97% accurate on each ball pitch. It's hard to do. It's not easy. Even I, as a pitcher, think sometimes it's a ball or a strike, and I release the ball myself.
Because depending on the height of the player, depending on
the depth perception and everything else, different stadium, so I would keep it where the players agree and say, hey, we don't want to take anybody out of the game. We don't want to have the umpires out, but we want 100% accuracy. That's the goal. And what can help the umpires, whether it's the AR glasses with a strike zone there, whatever it is, I'm fine with it. But I don't want to take away from the old school game. Like you want to improve it, but the rule change, I don't like the bigger bases. I don't get it. Like, they said the game's boring and we're going to accelerate. Like, just stop calling pitches up. I mean, there's ways to do it by not changing the whole ruling. Yeah. So, but I mean,
But for me, what you're saying is the basis of proper UX, right? The user experience. And I'm asking you about fans, umpires, players. This is how you need to, when I'm thinking of a good software or new innovation in technology, you have to do your research.
Yeah, and that's how the bills.
Who pays the bills and who's going to interact with it, right? Yep. And depending on who you are and your interactions with that specific software, it varies all the time, right? So the umpire will not have the same interaction with the software as the players, as the fans. And I think what I was reading was that the MLB really took a stand at saying, we're going to talk to everybody. We're going to make sure all their points of views and everything's going to be considered at the end of the day to make sure that this integration, this new change, because it's a major change for the league, that it will be a good change for everybody. And we're going to reduce change management. We're going to reduce the fans saying, screw that, we don't want this. We're going to reduce the MLBPA pushing back. Involve them. That's always.
I think for me, it's the fan interaction. It's not just interacting with them. It's give them like a say in it. Like people love that. It's like,
that's it.
If I watch the game, I want to know what's going on around the game, but I want to be part of it. And I think the fan interaction, the fan entertainment, all that is something that they need to really focus on, because obviously they need it. Like I said, that's who pays the bills, the fans. So fan first all the time. And, whether it's from technology, from game, or whatever, like what they want is usually what you try to cater to them.
I agree. And a fun fact that I saw about the Hawkeye system is that 50% of the challenges were overturned, which is crazy. It's crazy to see that the players, when they have a feeling that, you know, they're getting robbed, or the pitchers or the catchers, they can have a say. Now they have a tool. Yeah. It's a new tool. It's a new dimension of saying, hey, I disagree. And now there's a strategy as well. We were talking about it prior to the interview. It was how this changes everything and the strategy into play now. Like, are you going to do it right away in the first inning? No, you're going to try to probably keep them as much as you can within the game to find the sweet spot to activate it.
50% is like, we know what a strike is. I know when I throw a strike as soon as I release the ball. Now there's always variables like the wind or whatever, you might miss by a little bit or whatever, but you know, the umpires are really good, but we're really, really good at this. So we have the best hand-eye coordination. So that's a fun part to be added to that equation. Basically, like who understands the strike zone better than others? Now it's going to be the only thing I have a little bit of problem with is how does a strike zone changes with each other's height, right? You have a Aaron Judge or you have a Jose Altuve. That's two different human beings. I mean, you're talking about a 6'7", 6'8" guy to a guy that's 5'7". So that's going to be the difference. Like that's going to be the hard variables because hitters are used to have a strike zone that the umpires usually work with, which doesn't differ much depending on the height.
But now it will.
Now
the system takes it into consideration.
So that's going to be interesting to see because then you have a bigger strike zone because the guy's bigger. So is that a disadvantage?
Yeah.
So that's going to be taken into consideration because like the guys are a lot bigger now. So it's like, and then you want more offense, but then the more offense you want, if you call the pitch up, there's more plate to cover. So that reduces the offense. So where does that, how are they going to integrate that? That's going to be pretty interesting to see.
For sure. So right now the system is being tested with the juniors and in the training camp.
Yeah. They're at minor leagues. They've had it for, I think, 2 or 3 years in the minor leagues, 2 years, I think. And then they're testing in spring training right now for the major leagues.
Here in Arizona and in Florida, I believe. And I think they're aiming for 2026 integration in the league, which would be massive. It would be, do you think it's too soon? It would be part
of the collective bargaining agreement, I think. I don't know. We'll see. I don't know if, I mean, it's got to be very accurate. It's got to be very good. It's got to be consistent. But how do you know?
How can you say it's accurate or not?
I mean, the consistency, the guys, I mean, you should get the players to judge it and the umpires. They're the only ones that know. I mean, the camera angles, so to me, it has to be very accurate. I don't know exactly how they set up all those cameras with Hawkeye and all that stuff and where to get the radars or whatever. It has to be the same for every single stadium. Because you can tell if you look on the TV now, if you go to Toronto, the angle is different behind. So how does that vary? Is there, you know, because margin is very small. I mean, and
it
the
needs
guys
to be the same everywhere.
As long as it's 100% accurate at each place, it's the same. Just like the umpires, we're trained to understand when the umpire is going to call. So if we have a certain strike zone that doesn't change, it's consistent, we'll adapt to that. Just like pitching, like we pitch faster now because of the clock. We'll adapt, but it has to be consistent. It has to be accurate.
Got it. Makes sense. You touched upon another major change that happened in the league, which is gambling.
Yeah.
Right? Which, I mean, it's deeply linked with data, metrics, tech. And everything is going through, you know, websites and mobile apps probably. What do you see happening right now with gambling, and how does it affect the sport? Huge question, but
yeah, I mean it's fan entertainment. We all know that everybody gambles. Everybody is attracted to the gambling part. Yeah, it's money.
So for you, does it make the sport more appealing?
Of course. I mean, you ask anybody, it's you're creating a monster as well. So it's like there's a really good thing, which is money, entertainment value, and then you have, addiction and what comes with it, like the negative part,
have the dark side. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So you have to be careful where you have to be careful where you monetize the sports and who monetizes it and where the sources of money comes from.
And goes to.
Yes.
So
I think it's a touchy subject, not touchy, but it's something that needs to be talked about. It's something that the reality of it, it's like, the reason why they're doing the gambling, I think they're doing the technology is to get all the calls right so the gambling is accurate. I think that makes sense. But then again, like the gambling is sports, it's entertaining. It's definitely entertaining. I don't gamble much. I mean, I might gamble like maybe $500 in my life. I gamble on myself at golf a little bit. That I do. But, I see the value. I understand why, especially baseball, like the big disconnect with the fan and the sports. I think there's some to it because now it's everywhere. Everybody gambles on everything. You're not going to put the genie back in the bottle. It's a source of revenue that a lot of sports count on and they rely on. So it's going to be interesting how that's going to be, taken into the future, considering like the manipulation as well. Like the corruption on the players, like you don't want that come into play because you're starting to get into a gray area where, the sports integrity is put at risk. And to me, that's a
danger right now.
I think it's always a danger. You're bringing gambling, and you can bet on anything. You can bet on Division III football. You know what I mean? There's everything. So to me, this is a touchy subject. And how do you eliminate that corruption to get to the players? That to me is integrity. The game is everything. So first of all, is player safety and the game's integrity. That should be the first decision making you do, is those two factors, and of course the money after. Like the money trumps a lot of things. It's very attractive, but
And what's the use of, AI to support the betting side? Like, are people geeking out big time with betting and all the data points and all of what's happening in the sport? Or is it more entertainment and just like, hey, I'm betting on a team?
I mean, now you can make a living. If you have AI betting, you can make a living. I mean, it just tells you, it's just like investing in,
Have you witnessed that? Like, did you meet
I've
people?
I've studied it. That's my next step.
Okay, got it.
I've met a lot of different people at gambling part, but the AR part is something that, you have your own gambling AI, and it tells you the risk factor and all that stuff that you're looking for. And just like investing money in the market. I mean, it's the same thing. Now you can do pitch by pitch or whatever, depending on your habits on betting and the risk factor you're looking at and how much money you want to spend or invest in the gamble. So it's entertainment value. We see it as entertainment value, but there's a lot of things underneath. Like you talk about the AI, you talk about the risk factor. You got to take all this into consideration. But at the end of the day, it's like, to me, it has to be player safety and it has to be integrity of the game.
Got it.
No matter what, because then you lose your fan trust, you're done. You lose then you become, wrestling.
Yeah. No, I got it. Yeah. Where you don't know what's true and what's not at the end of the day. Changing gears. This is more or less the final segment, but it's going to be a pretty interesting one. At Product Misfires, we love to ask about a misfire that you've seen. So, have you been part or did you witness a product or project that you thought was going to be a home run, but at the end of the day, it was a misfire? It just it didn't fire right.
Yes, there's a couple products I've seen that doubted a lot. And one of them was called Modus Sleeve. It used to be created for running.
Okay.
And they would basically use it with the Rangers when I was a coach in the minor leagues. And they're literally they're making pitchers throw a certain amount of pitches because it was basically, they thought it was measuring the stress level on your arm.
Okay.
Which is
it was a sleeve. So.
Yeah, it was a Modus Sleeve.
Okay.
And it would apparently measure the stress level in each pitch. And it would tell you how many pitches you can throw that day.
Okay.
And just think about it, like all those guys, they trust me as a coach, right? Whatever I tell them, they buy into it if they trust it. So they integrate that stuff. That's the one thing with technology and humans, right? The integration factor is humongous. That's everything. If you trust in it and you test it and you believe in it, it usually works a lot better because the guys will try to do that. For me, the Modus Sleeve I think it was built for runners, basically so soccer, just to see how many steps you take and there's just shock. That's it.
Yeah.
They try to use it in baseball and I'm like, I didn't really understand it. I'm like, there's no way because the numbers are given us didn't really match, what I saw. It didn't match my eyes. I mean, as a pitcher, I've thrown millions of pitches. So I understand fatigue. I understand stress under certain circumstances, but they're literally relying on that only, which I didn't like. I thought it was kind of, a little bit BS, but I went with it for a little while, but I couldn't explain to the guys. They're like, sometimes they're like, hey, you can only throw 80 pitches. I'm like, okay, 80 pitches is okay in baseball. But then the next day, they're like, oh, you can only throw 15 pitches. I'm like, where does that come from?
Yeah.
So if you would move your arm around, it would count as a stress pitch. So there's a lot of things that it makes sense because you're trying to make sure that the guys don't get hurt. But there's a lot of things that they're trying to present. Everybody's got a great technology that they're going to change the world. We're going to solve every injury in baseball. But every body is different. Everyone acts differently. Everybody's, fiber, muscle, everything's different. So
super unique.
Yeah.
But what did they do wrong in your perspective?
The integration and the test. I think they just went too fast with it, and then people stopped believing in it.
Did they speak to the players? Did they speak to the coaches?
No,
were they like, hey, let's pivot this project?
That was my biggest concern. I'm like, you guys don't explain what you're looking out of it. If you guys are looking at, it was basically
it was opaque. Like you couldn't see
nothing.
what was happening.
Like, we need to see why your guys are saying throw 25 pitches instead of 45. I need to understand why, because the kids will ask me, and I think I can't explain that to my pitchers. It's not valuable. It's not like I need to understand what you're trying to accomplish. I can explain to them. They can buy into it, and we can work on that and improve that product or utilize it the right way. So that was, to me, technology is all integration and all explaining why you're doing this, just like, the ABS system.
So when you're talking about integration, just to make sure that we're on the same page, you're talking about change management. So sitting down with the people, explaining the technology, explaining what does it do, what doesn't it do, how it works, the data gathering, and the full transparency. To me, it's simple. It's what do we have now? What is that going to do to us, and how do we implement it? Okay. And what does it do at the end? Is it worth it? Is it worth all of our time to, plug that stuff in, look at it, analyze it, really understand? Like, stress level is very vague. Yeah.
Like, tell us what stress level means. Like, understand. Like, we need understanding what that means. Because if you just say stress level, of course, I don't want to stress my pitchers. So
who were these guys? Were they like tech people? Were they athletes?
Remember, we're test dummies for everybody. We're like, literally, like, they test everything on us. They're trying to do this, and that. But at the end of the day, everybody's so individualized. It's so different that, all the technology, they see Major League Baseball as a perfect spot to test everything. Because if the players endorse it, everybody is going to follow it. That's just like the fans want that. So that's why, like, now you see the Dodgers have done that a long time. I mean, they've implemented so many different things. Like, they've trial and errors, a lot of it. They're ahead of the curve a lot too, but they've done a lot of mistakes whether it's the way they pitch to guys, like the way they teach them how to pitch up in the zone without explaining the reason why. It took a long time to implement it because it wasn't understood. Basically, if you want to change the way we train or change the way we think, if there's a plan, a game plan or blueprint of what we're trying to accomplish and what the outcomes are, and is it worth it, then everybody's involved, like we talked about. If everybody's involved, like MLB's done with the new technology, then you have real inputs, real life inputs, and is it worth it or not?
You're going to start to get traction and less pushback on the tech.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense.
Especially in an old school sports like we are. And especially if you have to have the old coaches that only think a certain way. Back in the days, it was just run until you can't run no more. That was the training. And like, there was no weights or nothing. Now it's like, hey, there's so many different trainings. There's so many ways to, food intake, sleep patterns. There's so much stuff that you can do. I mean, motion capture. You can have your blood tested depending on your food intake and your sleep pattern. There's so much out there, but it doesn't always work. Like, sometimes the small changes, that's what I've noticed. The project I'm working on, it's like, take all that data, take all the technology, put it all in there, and what works for you, it could be one little changes. That's what I'm looking for. I don't want to change my whole life and see no result. I want to say one little tweak. And does that change anything? Yeah. Yes or no? Yeah, all right, I'll keep doing that. Then I integrate another small changes. Yeah. Then you see progress. And that's why I think, like the misfire you talked about, that's kind of a little bit like they're trying to change the whole wheel. The wheel is around for a reason. Yeah.
It's too much change.
Sometimes. I'm not against change. I'm all about integrating and understanding and why are we doing this. And then it's understood. Then you can explain to it. Then it becomes a culture.
Yeah, and going back again, I think it's a good lesson to whoever's listening and looking at the Hawkeye system. Mm-hmm. Again, they've done it step by step. They didn't throw it in the throat of the fans or the players. Yeah. It was done progressively, juniors, probably a small pool of teams, and then it grew and now training camps and maybe next year in the league. That's if probably it checks all the boxes. If the coaches like the product, they probably need to get all the stamps of approval. And it makes sense. And that's a way to execute and do a proper integration of a software, regardless what it is. Looking ahead, what do you see tech in baseball for the next 5-10 years?
Oh, it's going to change.
And it's 5 years is far away. So
I'm thinking a couple of years. I mean, I'm thinking like AI is going to start negotiate contracts. AI is going to tell you how you throw, when you throw, all that stuff.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Just think about it. Like the value of a player, like we have uniform contracts. My contract is just to perform on the field, right? That's it. And then there's so much technology. Well, there's streaming, social media, gambling, gaming, all of these
public appearances.
This is all revenue stream that's on tap for players to be monetized. For me, we can use technology for player monetization, or for risk on investment for the owners. So there's other ways to make money now. Like it's not just food and beverages or tickets or TV rights is kind of going down a little bit, and then that's it. There's only 4 ways of revenues. Now you can create now you got the streaming. Now you're going to have the social media platform. Like all this, we're influencers. And I think with the new collective bargaining agreement, you're going to see a lot of technology and data integrated into how you pay players, not just performance on the field.
Do you think people are going to be able to actually buy in to a player's career?
Hopefully, that's my goal. Is
that something that's
stock.
even on the...
I think player stock. That's when you separate the gambling into, I think,
an investment.
Well, I think you should be able to invest in a player. You should be able to invest in a team. You should be able to invest in a sports. I think there should be 3 things that should be invested in, because then it's like gambling. If you gamble on each pitch, or you gamble on outcomes on, at bats outcome, you can bet on a player's career. You can bet on a player's year or player's week. You can bet on a team. You can bet on that. Then becomes a lot more, I think, sustainable, because the way it's an old school sports. The infrastructure of baseball is old. Even most sports is old. Like now you see with the TV rights going down to streaming, there's so many platforms out there. I think it's going to change. I think it's going to be where the goal is to have players be a stock. Then you're basically responsible to raise your stock, and if if you take care of yourself, whether it's health and wellness, whether it's gaming, gambling, fan interaction on social media, AI will tell you where you need to go, how you need to interact with people, if whatever on and off the field, and your digital DNA, your digital footprint, all of this will be your responsibility to grow your stock.
You look excited about that.
I love that
topic.
I think that's why I see technology.
Do you see this as the next best innovation in the sport of baseball?
I see this as a next collective bargaining agreement that players need to really realize that where the money is, where the sports is going, and be ahead of this, because it's important. Because I want the sports to grow and to keep going, to be efficient and to be self-sustainable. And I think the way to do this is by fan interaction, by social media, by gambling. You can't put it back in the bottle. So it's like, it's there. It's not going back. We're not going to say, we're not gambling anymore.
Let's go. But that's a total disruption I
don't like the word disruption. It's not disruption. It's adaptability. Okay. I think you adapt to where you're at and what people want. And what they want is being entertained. And you find new sources of revenue, which is the old infrastructure in place is maybe not allowing that. But at some point, like the teams in the top 5 teams that have their own TV network, and those teams in the middle that don't have that revenue, that are in limbo now, since there are a lot of TV rights are kind of in and out. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with streaming rights, social media, all that stuff. Yeah,
because at the end of the day, the value that you bring to a team is not just what you bring on the field, is everything around of what you do. It's super interesting. Last question. Do you have one innovation that you were worried could misfire in the sport?
Well, yeah, I think it's like, there's a lot of, invasion of privacy stuff that's coming in now, like with your blood system, DNA things are shareable and all that stuff. Like to me, that's dangerous. Not dangerous, but it has to be done right.
So as a player, hold on. So as a player now, you do all these tests and all these, you're gathering all these metrics on you. And you're saying that, okay. And you're worried that may
I'm worried
backfire.
that if it's not done right, it'll be abused. But it's like anything in data. Like data is, data, whatever it's from your training or your health or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not done right, if it's not utilized the right way, because just like technology and data, it was utilized wrong back in the days. It was used to save money or used to go against the players. We can use that for longevity and career, for max monetization, for risk and investment be a lot less. I think you can see that as sustainability on the game. And it's been used back in the days. It was called Moneyball, right? It was just used to say, hey, we don't need this guy or this guy. It was used to diminish the player of value instead of being used to enhance the game, enhance the, I hate to say it, but we're a product. We're literally a product that it's sold to the fans. So if you want to keep your product on the field, which you don't have to retain your fan base, you have to like find new fans every single year. You got to keep your product on the field.
Yeah.
And I think to me, I see it in that way. I don't see it negatively, but I see it could be misused. So that's why the next collective bargaining agreement is going to be huge to negotiate those. The data, ownership, and where it comes from, what you do with it should be for the players.
Can this innovation and all those data points, can they help to find the next Cy Young winner?
I think so. I mean, now you have the hand-eye coordination skill thing. You have a motion capture you can do early. You can predictable models. That's what we're trying to create, where you see a 10-year-old kid move a certain way. You're like, well, that's different, right? But you can't really pinpoint that. You see guys like skate in a certain way or throw a baseball a certain way or swing a golf club differently. They're like, wow, that's different. But why is it different? What makes it different? Now we can do that with the technology, with the data. To me, that's like, I don't want to say like, it sounds crazy to say it because you're starting going like a 10-year-old, but there's certain things that you see in athletes that you're like, wow, that's special. But what is it? That it factor? Now I don't think we can pinpoint yet, but there's patterns that you see. Okay, and that coordination's amazing. Yeah. The way he carries himself, the way he acts, the way his reflexes are, whatever. Everything is there now. You have all the technology for all that. Now, how you put it together, what you use that for a 10-year-old kid or 15-year-old kid or a major league baseball player, it's different. But I think there's a lot of stuff out there just for health. Mm-hmm. Just for your, injuries and stuff to make sure that we don't, when you're 10, 12 years old, the coaches will be able to get that information that, hey, don't make him throw 50 pitches or don't make him do bench press or whatever it is. He doesn't need that because depending on his growth, wherever he's at as a growth level, we can adapt to this. We can do it per player from 10 years old to whatever, till you're 40.
Eric, You've clearly thought about this quite a bit.
Too much.
I know there's a lot of projects brewing for you. Hopefully you're going to be back in a couple of months to tell us all about it. But in the meantime, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, man.
It was a pleasure talking to you, and clearly you're a fan of the sport, man. Still.
Big fan.
Through and through. Thank you.
Thank you.